Modernism in architecture really develops around the turn of the century and continues all the way into the 1950s or so. It's an overarching movement that sort of takes in a lot of the smaller ideas. Art Deco, Art Moderne, a lot of other forms will exist within these ideas of modernism. So what is modernism? It's a style based on new and innovative technologies of construction, particularly the use of glass, steel, and reinforced concrete. Now, what they're going to do is they're going to reach out and try and build structures that they couldn't have built in the past, or humans couldn't have built in the past, based on new techniques and new materials. Obviously, things like the Sears Tower don't exist in Roman times. They don't have steel, they don't have glass of the right quality, etc. So that's what modernism is trying to do. Apply these new ideas to sort of modern thinking. What do I mean by that? Well, we have architects like Le Corbusier, whose name I am butchering, I apologize, who's one of the most influential architects of the 20th century, who will state his philosophy and the philosophy of modernism particularly well in saying that a house is a machine for living in. The idea being that he's trying to create a better life, a happier life for people based on good architecture, based on forms and styles that will improve someone's life. To the modernists, that means drawing the outdoors indoors and creating a relationship between the indoors and the outdoors. Unfortunately, the resultant building tends to consume a great deal of energy, and the materials required almost constant maintenance. In this case, look at those walls made up of stone. They're beautiful. They would deaden the sound fantastically. But could you imagine dusting that? I mean, it just becomes a dust trap. So you get the idea where there's sort of a balance point, and they're playing with that. They're trying to draw in natural materials, but at the same time, you get resultant structures that often will require that constant maintenance, that increased life cycle cost. Now, one of the goals of modernists is going to be relating interior spaces, the structure, as well as the natural environment. Nature, theorists purport, reflected divinity through irregularity, and therefore buildings should reflect that same divinity. So the building should fit into the landscape, not contrasting with it. They're not trying to hide it. Obviously, this is not trying to be hidden, but it's trying to fit with the overall landscape. At the same time, they want to draw many of those natural materials in, using a lot of stone or oftentimes concrete in the place of stone, sometimes hiding materials, making them look like something else. So, for example, concrete that looks an awful lot like wood. Another element of this is going to be structures that just fit into the environment. Frank Lloyd Wright's Falling Water in Pennsylvania is a great example of this. He's not trying to hide it once again. He's using the materials of the area. So if you're familiar with Pennsylvania, you're familiar with the shale that's all over the place, those very horizontal lines that you tend to see in the rock landscape in that area. And so he's mimicking that in the stonework instead of using large field stones. He's brought the horizontalness that we tend to associate with Frank Lloyd Wright and his prairie style out here into this example in Pennsylvania, into Falling Water. And you get a building that is going to fit, that's going to have a relationship with the land around it. It makes it easier for them to then take that exterior and bring it inside. In fact, that's going to be key. What they're looking to do is open the environment and promote health through natural light and ventilation, offering sunlight and convenience. And a Finnish architect by the name of Aalto led the way in Scandinavia with the humanistic architecture. He combines wood with modern steel, glass, and concrete to create buildings that harmonize with their surroundings, that draw in that natural element. The idea being that we are, as humans, are ultimately animals. It's only very recently that we exist so much as we do in interior space. So let's bring the exterior indoors and it will make it more comfortable. He also has ideas that this will make it more hygienic. By increasing the air ventilation through the space and increasing sunlight. This is before we understand what UV light does to germs and such. He actually does develop ideas that are well ahead of his time. But this is where we're getting a lot of that modern style, the idea of using new materials, new technologies to create something that is going to be more comfortable to the human, a happier space, as it were.